I just don't love it. It's the best of the worst. The Woobles lovers are gonna come for me. Hello and welcome to the Faded Wildflower Crochet. My name is Rachel, and today is another episode of Will It Ami, which is a series on my channel where we test out different types of yarn and see if they work for amigurumi. Now, if you've been watching my channel, then you know that I was about to say a love-hate relationship. No, it's an all-hate relationship with t-shirt yarn, at least with the couple of yarns that I have tried so far. But in the comments of all of those videos, people kept telling me, try the Easy Peasy yarn from Woobles because it is different. It's so much better. It's so much easier to work with. So that is what we're going to be trying out today. I bought this Easy Peasy yarn from the Woobles. I found this at my local Joann. I ordered it as soon as I saw it on the website. They just started carrying it. And so we are going to see if this yarn changes my mind about t-shirt yarns. The pattern that we're going to be working from is this cute little squid. This is my own design. I will have the link to the pattern down below. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at this yarn. Okay, here is what this yarn looks like. And I was expecting it to be a much larger skein, especially because this is 164 yards. So I was just expecting it to look bigger, but it is a nice compact little skein. And I think maybe because this yarn is a thinner, this is a size 4 weight, whereas I believe the other t-shirt yarns we've tried in the past have been a thicker weight. And so that just makes this a nice little compact skein, which I don't mind. This color is called Eat Pink and Be Merry, which is a cute name. I feel like I'm in my pink era right now. I keep choosing pink yarns for some reason. But anyway, this yarn is made of cotton and nylon. And if I'm not mistaken, the other t-shirt yarns we've tried have been only nylon. I could be wrong about that. I will fact check myself and correct myself on the screen if I'm wrong. But I think this is the first one that we've tried that actually is made mostly of cotton. Now, I did scan this QR code, and it says right here, what makes Easy Peasy yarn oh so great for beginners. So I scanned it and I was expecting it to be like an explanation more about the yarn, how it works and that kind of thing, or even a link to where you can buy it. Instead, it just took me to the Woobles website and I clicked through and I could not find the yarn on their website. Now, I could be totally missing something. It's been known to happen, but it just had a link to woobles.com and just showed all the different kits that they have. So I don't really know why they included that QR code if they weren't going to tell you more about the yarn, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky here. It does say to use a 5mm crochet hook, which I feel like that is probably too big. I will definitely go down a hook size for me personally, but I use a medium weight yarn all the time for custom orders. And I use like a 3.5 or even a 3.25 sometimes on that yarn. So it's interesting to hear them say you need a 5mm. We'll see what we end up using. And I think that is all. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the crocheting. Before we get started on the crocheting, I did want to show you what this yarn strand looks like and that it is much different than the other t-shirt yarns that we've tried, in that those other yarns were a kind of rolled up piece of t-shirt, but you could unroll it and it would get wide. You cannot do that with this one. This one also has a little bit, it's hard to see on camera, but maybe you can kind of tell. It has a little bit of batting on the inside, so it makes it nice and plush. So that is quite interesting. I will say the feeling of it just does feel like a cotton t-shirt. That's exactly what it feels like, if you're wondering. It's not exactly soft and like cushy like a velvet yarn or anything like that, but it does have a pretty decent texture to it. We will see what it feels like in the finished plush. But without further ado, we are finally going to get to the crocheting. I just noticed something. There's a pattern in here. This is cute. There's a little lemon in here. Should we also do the lemon pattern next? I'm kind of curious how this would work up. Now, of course, it's kind of silly that this came with a lemon pattern and we have pink yarn, but they're doing like the easy squeezy lemon peasy, whatever the phrase is, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yeah. Which is cute because the yarn is called easy peasy. That is quite adorable. I will say there is nothing like the Woobles kit marketing. They have great marketing. Their kits are all really cute. All of the designs. They partner with a lot of big companies. Their marketing team is really good. Anyway, if we had the yellow yarn, I would be making this little cutie, but I've already gotten this far on our squid, so we will continue. My first impressions are that this is far and away the best t-shirt yarn that I've tried on the channel so far. It is much easier to work with, much less stiff. It's much more malleable is a word I want to use. I don't know. It's much easier to work with just in general overall. Now, I will say though, it's not the easiest still to get your tension right. Can you see that there are some gaps in my work? It did get better as I went along, but you can still see that there's sections where there's gapping. Now, I have seen a million Woobles projects on Instagram, on Reddit, and I have to say every time I've ever seen one, even if it looks really good, there's gaps in the work. I just feel like t-shirt yarn is just not the easiest to keep a consistent tension with. Now, I am just really, really picky about this. You guys know this if you've been watching my channel, that I just really like my stitches to look even and tight, but not everybody seems to have that priority, especially if they're telling you to use a 5mm crochet hook. I used a 3.75. We're still in our pink era, apparently, but I mean, that's much smaller than a size 5 hook. Like, I can't imagine trying to use this. There would be so many more gaps. Like, how would your stuffing not end up coming out? Like, let's even look at this little guy. Can you see that there are gaps all in this person's work? I just don't like the way that looks. And I don't know. Again, I know I'm picky, but I mean, let's just like look at this example of velvet yarn. Can you see that the stitches are like nice and even? You don't see any gapping. I have this one here that's made with chenille yarn. Like, can you see that that just looks so much nicer than this? At least in my opinion. I just like the way that chenille yarn and velvet, as well as worsted weight yarn, any of those kind of things, even a lot of cotton yarns, I like the way that the stitches look a lot better than this. And again, I am picky. I know this about myself, but I just don't prefer it. Now, I am going to continue working on this, and it is so much easier to work with. I will say that, like, this is a breeze to work with in comparison to any of the other t-shirt yarns that I've tried. It's not that it's hard to work with. I just don't love the way the end results look. I have to be honest. I can see why this would appeal to a newer crochet audience because this yarn is obviously not going to split. You don't have to even think about that or worry about that. I understand, but I don't know. And the texture too, in the end, it's fine. It's just not my personal favorite. I have to talk about my bias here because, like I said, I just don't know if this yarn is for me. Even now that I'm trying it, I just don't feel like it's changing my mind, at least not so far, but it is much easier to work with. So we'll keep working on the squid, see if I change my mind by the end of this. You know, so far it is the best t-shirt yarn that I've tried, but that's like saying that it's the best of the worst. Okay, we are trucking right along with this squid. Now, when this video comes out, American Thanksgiving has probably already happened. But as I'm filming this, Thanksgiving is next week. And we decided to stay home because my husband is working Wednesday and Friday, and he's basically in charge at work both of these days. And so it's such a pain that Thanksgiving happens on a Thursday because it makes traveling really difficult. So anyway, we are deciding to stay home, which means that we are cooking ourselves. Now, this is actually going to be the 4th time in my life. Is that right? Yeah, 4th time in my life that I have cooked Thanksgiving dinner. So I've done this before. But I am compiling a list right now of all of the things that I want to cook. And I'm curious, what is on your favorite Thanksgiving food list? You have to have turkey, you have to have stuffing, you have to have mashed potatoes. I like green bean casserole, but nobody else in my family does. Do you guys like green bean casseroles? So we'll probably just get green beans. And then I make these really good pumpkin cookies. So we're going to make those. Some pumpkin pie, some apple cinnamon cake. I feel like desserts is really where it's at. I think I'm making less real food and making more desserts because, I mean, that's the best part, right? So let me know what is on your favorite Thanksgiving foods list. What did you guys have if you celebrate Thanksgiving? Were you the one cooking? Do you enjoy cooking? I don't really enjoy it. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's just one of those things that I'm glad that I know how to do, but it's not something that I find any sort of particular joy in necessarily, but it is kind of fun to do with the kids. And I am pre-filming a lot right now so that I don't have to film the week of Thanksgiving and I can just enjoy it with my kids. We can make a lot of sweet treats. So that is the plan for us. So yeah, I am trucking right along with my little pink squid. I will say as it goes along, the tension is looking much better. Still not perfect, still not my personal favorite, but you know, we'll reserve our judgment for the end. So I'm feeling the severe need right now to go touch some grass because my Etsy video that I made actually like a few weeks ago is just now starting to get some traction. And I'm always thankful when a video of mine does well, don't get me wrong, but with more views comes more weird comments, just weird. And so I'm just like, I need to go touch some grass. So after I get to the point where I'm going to put some eyes in this little guy, then we are going to go sit on the porch because that sounds so lovely right now. One of you guys said that you wanted to see Miss Lily freak out when I say the word Outside. So this is for you.
Hey, Lily, do you want to go outside?
Unfortunately, Lily did not do as big of a freak out as she normally does, but it was still pretty cute. And you could see by the way she's zooming out there that it is her favorite place to be. Unfortunately, we could not stay long because I forgot to charge my phone last night and it was dying, so we had to come inside. But it was nice while it lasted. So this is how far I've gotten on Mr. Squid here. I just have to finish up the rest of the tentacles and then sew this up. And I continue to feel pretty much the same about this yarn. It is not difficult to work with, but it is just a little bit hard to be consistent with my tension. Maybe I can show you that, like, for the most part, it looks pretty good. And then occasionally you can see a few gaps here and there. They just don't look as consistent as I like. You can see here, a little bit right there. It's not terrible. Definitely not the worst thing ever. I just don't love it. I just don't love it. The Woobles lovers are going to come for me. I know that there are a lot of y'all out there that love the Woobles. You learn to crochet with the Woobles, and that's great. I'm not knocking it. I think that just in general, this is not my preferred type of yarn. And I'm trying to figure out why I'm having a hard time keeping my tension right. And I think it maybe has something to do with the fact that there is a stretchiness to this yarn going in this direction. If you can see that. And I think maybe because of that, it is just hard to pull my stitches as tight as I want them to be. And again, this is probably a me problem. I do like my stitches much tighter than other people do. And again, I'm trying to give this yarn as fair of a chance as I can, but I'm already being able to tell that this is probably just not for me. But I will talk more about all of that in my final thoughts. So let's finish up these little tentacles and then this cutie will be done. Okay, our little squid is done, and I have to admit, she is pretty cute. I had my doubts as I was working on her, but now that she's done, I have to admit, she's pretty adorable. So now let's talk my final thoughts on the Easy Peasy Woobles brand of yarn. I'm going to talk about some different categories of this yarn and say whether I give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a sideways thumb. Now let's start off by talking about, is this easy to work with? Now, here's the thing. This is leaps and bounds better than the other t-shirt yarns that I've tried on the channel so far. It is not stiff like those other yarns. It doesn't snag or anything like that. Although I did find one little section of the yarn that was already snagged before we even started working with it. I feel like it got hidden in the piece, so you can't really see it, but that was a little bit concerning. Now, my biggest issue with this is, of course, that it is hard to get your tension right. I was talking to my cousin recently who was trying to learn how to crochet with a kit, and she said her biggest problem was trying to get her tension right. And I feel like maybe this type of yarn is to blame for that, because even in the sample photos that you see of it, the stitches are not very tight and even. So that makes me think that it has something to do with the yarn. Again, it could be that stretchiness like I was showing earlier. I'm not really sure what it is. But other than the tension issue, I can see why a beginner would like this yarn, because it is so easy to see your stitches with this yarn. You're obviously not going to have any splitting or anything like that. So for all these reasons, I am giving this yarn a sideways thumbs up in this category. So now let's talk about the price of this kit. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but this is $12.99 a skein, so it's definitely not cheap. And I mean, the Woobles kits are not cheap either. It's up to every person whether they think it's worth that price tag or not. You do get a lot of yardage, and it was pretty good quality, although there was that one snag in the yarn that I showed, but there weren't any factory knots or anything like that. I don't know. I'm giving this a sideways thumb, but it is kind of teetering towards down in my opinion. So now let's talk about the color range of this yarn. I believe there are 14 different colors that this yarn comes in, and they really cover all their bases with some colorful yarns, some neutral colored yarns, and for me personally, it's just nothing to write home about. It's nothing that exciting. That is personal preference, but I don't look at this color range and think like, wow, I really want to try that. And maybe they're going to expand their line as they go along, because I do think it's pretty new that they released this yarn. I'll have to check on that. But, the kits came first and then now they're selling the yarn separately. So maybe they'll expand that line later on. But like I said, personal preference, but I'm just not that excited about it. So I'm going to give this category a sideways thumb. So now let's talk about the texture of this yarn. I feel like this one, once again, has to get a sideways thumb from me. In the skein, it felt more like a t-shirt, but once it's worked up, it just feels a little bit more dense, which I find just is the case with t-shirt yarns across the board. Now, if you were to work this in a looser stitch, it might feel a little nicer, but my preference is to have nice, tight, even stitches with amigurumi. And because of that, it just affects the end texture and the fact that this is cotton as well. Now, it's going to be durable. Don't get me wrong. If you're looking for something really nice and durable, this is probably the yarn for you. But for my own personal preference, I just don't love it, but it's not offensive in any way either. So in the end, will Easy Peasy Woobles yarn Ami? Yes, I think we all knew the answer to that question. But am I converted to a t-shirt yarn lover after this experience? No. If this is the best that t-shirt yarns get, I have to just face the facts that t-shirt yarn is just not for me. But I don't not recommend it. It's not a bad yarn. It's not like I want to chunk it into the river or like burn it in the fireplace like I have with some yarns in the past. It's fine, but it's just not for me. You'll have to let me know what you thought about today's video. No hate towards Woobles as a company or towards you if you like this yarn. That's the thing about yarn, is that there are so many different options and we're all going to have different opinions. This is just my opinion, and I feel like I'm probably in the minority on this, but you'll have to let me know what you think about this yarn if you've tried it. Also, does anybody want the rest of this? I feel like I need to do some sort of Instagram giveaway or something on yarns that I've tried for the channel that I know I'm not going to use the rest of, because this is just going to sit on my shelf unused. So if you would like this yarn, let me know. As always, if you've made it to this part of the video, let me know what were you working on as you watched this video. If you did like today's video, be sure to hit the like button. You can subscribe, stick around, let me know what other kind of videos you want to see next. You can follow me on Instagram. You can check out my Etsy shop. You can join my Patreon where I make bonus videos as well as an exclusive pattern once a month. And thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.